Dormamu versus
Okay,
Dormamu.
so Flo,
Yeah, versus
Flo,
Dormammu.
Flo, do you want to agree to a tiering system? Or at least
I
like,
agree to the versus battle wiki tiering system.
what aspects of it do you agree?
I mean, the definition of, I guess the definition of like universal, meaning that you concept of space and time.
Do you want to agree that when they mean transcending the concept of space and time, that it simply means to just be beyond
What
Like,
happened to this
mathematics?
mic? Did it just kill
like
itself or something?
you're greater than dimensionality itself. So
Um,
like
okay, that's so beyond mathematics.
beyond dimensionality, like bigger than dimensionality itself, like either
Um,
qualitatively or quantitatively.
I mean, I don't really think you can apply the word bigger in that context, but I see what you're trying to say. Um, sure. I guess that's fine. Anything else or no? Um, I have a question real quick. So, do you agree that your character is has depth?
As what?
Do you agree that your character has depth?
Yes, my character has depth, very much so.
What do you define as depth?
I mean, I define depth as being like congruent to or up congruent to or above third dimensional because
Uh,
the third
I,
dimension
I
is
I define dimensional axes as perpendicular to all dimensional axes below them. So a two-dimensional plane is perpendicular to all one-dimensional things. Three-dimensional thing is perpendicular to all two-dimensional things, and so on. Right. So do you agree with that definition? I mean, it makes logical sense if you
I
break it
agree with
down.
that since that is just
Okay.
vector geometry.
Okay. Got it. So can you show that your character is perpendicular to two spatial dimensions?
What?
Yeah. So if we agree to a definition of depth, we're perpendicular to all lower dimensions.
Well, how about this? Do you agree that the word space refers to the three-dimensional axes?
No, not necessarily. It just would be in reference to space, for example, like any form of physical thing. It's I think it's super context dependent, and
Do
just
you
the word
think
space
space, do you
itself
agree
is
that
ambiguous.
space and time being used collectively together means like a 4D space time?
I mean, I think space time within the real world is 4D, but I don't know about your fictional verse. I don't know how the properties of space time work there. I don't know how, like, I don't know how they work. I don't know what space would be defined within your verse, but time would be defined as within your verse, right? And even if what they mean by three dimensions would be the same as three dimensions here, for example, you can have dimensions be used to talk about universes or just names of realms. An example would be DC, where they have a sixth dimension that you can interpret as outer universal or whatever, or they have these things beyond the sixth dimension that are way beyond dimensionality itself. Just listing examples, you can disagree with that DC scaling, but it's just semantics that you can approach that way. So I think when a verse says dimensions, we have to break down what they mean by dimensions, and if they truly mean vector spaces, and when they define vector spaces, if they define it in the same way that we define it, the reason why
Okay, well, can you
defining it as why we define it would matter is because that's how the VSBW tiering system would not only work, but also even if we don't want to agree with all parts of the VSBW tiering system, we should at least agree to some form of like logical way and conclusion to derive scaling in some way.
all right. Wait, but does your character have depth?
Uh, I mean, sure. I mean, yeah, I think Madara. I think Madara has some form of depth, but I don't really think that's relevant to the question I'm asking you right now. Like, even if my character doesn't have depth, wait, my character might have a win con. Right, so it can be the case that my character has depth, or the case that my character does not have depth. I don't really think whether whether P or not P is true matters to the question I'm asking you on if your character has depth. So you believe that your character has depth. Can you substantiate on why you believe this and why you think this is true?
Um, but first, but like, wait, what did you say about your character having depth? Did you say
I
he has
I
depth
said
or
I said I don't really think the question itself would matter necessarily within the context of the question I'm asking you right now. You can either have depth or not have depth. I don't really think I need to answer that right now. I think first of all, you need to fulfill your burden on your character having depth, right? I don't really think I need to answer if my character has depth or not. So,
I
yeah.
mean, I mean, if your character doesn't have depth and my
Well,
character doesn't have depth, then we can scale from there.
uh, I mean, but I'm not going to grant anything about my character yet because I'm currently asking about your character. My character could have other win cons other than depth. My character could theoretically be zero dimensional yet be an universal being. You don't know that. I don't know that, right?
That's a
So,
contradiction because you
huh?
have that's a
Okay,
contradiction. If you're
okay.
zero dimensional, you
I'm
have to
giving
change.
you. Oh my god, dude, you're. Oh my god, I'm giving you an example on things my character could possibly have, right? So, for example, my character could have some weird, crazy hacks from like some high universal being, right, to where it could be universal beings. I'm not saying that's true. I'm not asserting anything about my character. I'm saying there's some possible or impossible world, right, within my that my character could have that. So the reason why I'm bringing this up in the first place is that I don't think, as of right now, whether my character has depth or does not have depth is relevant to the conversation. So I think, as of right now, you have to just can you just fulfill your burden for why you think your character has depth? That's literally it.
Hmm. Oh, you want me to prove my character has depth, right?
Yeah, just how we define depth. Yeah, I want you to prove that they have some properties
I mean,
that will be perpendicular to the x and y axis.
I mean, I'm agnostic to all definitions of depth, but I
Wait,
define.
wait, 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 wait. So earlier in the debate, do you agree that we went over a definition for what depth is?
Um,
And
I agree that we did go over the definition.
okay. So I gave you a definition. I gave you reasoning. We went over it. You didn't seem to have any issues with it, and now you're backtracking, trying to claim you're agnostic. Do you understand that with that? Sure, while not all backtracking is necessarily bad, within this context, your backtracking would not really allow us to engage in a proper dialectic.
I mean, maybe, but um, I'm just gonna
Uh,
backtrack on this one thing
why do you think you're allowed to backtrack within this instance?
because there simply is no possible way to prove that my character
Okay,
is
okay, that's
perpendicular
still going.
to an
That's
axis.
going circular. That you're still backtracking on that. You're still backtracking on that. That doesn't really answer my question. Why do you think you're allowed to backtrack in this instance?
I mean, because I agreed to two definitions. That means I never, I,
Huh? Wait,
I
when did you agree to two definitions? I just clarified what we mean by one definition, right? So let's, for example, we listed one definition, and then I clarified what this definition would entail, so we can be more specific. We didn't agree to two different definitions. We listed out one definition, elaborated on what that definition is and what that definition would necessarily have to entail, and that definition was granted. Then now you're just backtracking. You're agreeing you're backtracking. So I'm assuming that you did grant that definition earlier. So you. So why do you think you are allowed to backtrack within this instance?
I gave one definition and you gave a separate
No,
definition.
I didn't give a different definition. I just specified your definition. So, for example, I could say I don't know. The number two, right, is greater than one. And then I can elaborate on what it means to be greater than one, all the properties of what it means to be greater than one. I'm not giving you a different definition. I'm just uh, elaborating on what your definition means. You gave a definition. I agreed to it, but then I also elaborated it, and we agreed on this elaboration still meaning the same thing, right? So
Right.
it's like
Wait,
this.
you're telling me that me saying having depth is being of a third dimensionality or above, and you're saying that that's somehow related to perpendicular planes.
Yeah, because being third dimensional is perpendicular to the two lower dimensions. I have agreed is the case, or I'm assuming you have a base something you bring your backtracking. So I'm assuming you had a different stance before that. You didn't really attack my interpretation of what you said, right? So it seems like I interpreted your argument in a different way to elaborate on it. You didn't have an issue with my interpretation of what, meaning it's not like it was a straw man or anything like that. You didn't seem to have an issue with what I said. So yeah,
But
you're
you
backtracking.
agreed by definition too.
Well, our definitions. My definition that I gave is the same as yours, just elaborated more further, right? What it
All right.
means to be
So
a third
then you agree
dimensional.
to my definition.
Yeah, and
So
let me elaborate.
here,
Let me
let
elaborate.
me
What it means to be a third dimensional thing above two dimensional space is to be perpendicular. That's what we agreed to. So are you? So if you're not gonna, so
define
don't backtrack.
perpendicular.
Okay, perpendicular. So for example, imagine you have a line, right? Then I can have another line that can go in between that line up, right? So I can add another degree of freedom. Then I can add another degree of freedom by going perpendicular to these two lines. Another way to define perpendicular, for example, is like higher levels of vectors. But if you want, we can also get an official definition, perpendicular definition. At an angle of a 90 degree of any given line, plane, or surface. So yeah, this seems to follow my definition. So it simply means you can get higher degrees of freedom. We can go perpendicular to higher degrees of freedom, higher dimensions. So 3 dimensions, right, is a higher dimension than 2 dimensions. Defining higher because of a higher level of freedom, like degree of freedom in terms of space and movement. And you can go 90 degrees in that direction, and that line that you would make straight through the plane on a 90-degree angle through the third dimension would be perpendicular to the entire two-dimensional plane.
All
So,
right, but do you agree that to do you agree that to have size you need to have depth because you can't have
no,
size
no. With
unless you have depth.
size can be length, area, volume, right? So you, for example, length doesn't have depth. That's just one dimension. Area doesn't have depth. That's just 2 dimensions. That's still defined as a size. What do you think a size is? What do you think we mean by size? We just mean some measurement of how big something is compared to something else, or how big it is from some reference framework. For example, area, the reference frame here is like some two-dimensional unit. That can be cubic. I mean, that can be centimeter squared, squared inches, square miles, square kilometers. That can be defined as size. Sure, there can be things defined as size that have depth, but not all things that have size necessarily have to have depth. So yeah, I don't think depth is some necessary thing when it comes to size in terms of general size. So we're saying size in general. I'm going to assume size for all dimensions. There exist some dimensions that don't have depth, therefore it would follow that yes, depth is not necessary for size.
All right, give me a second. I'm looking through my scans.
Okay. It seems like we've clarified on the whole backtracking point and on like the definitions. So currently, right, let me restate your burden. All you have to do is prove that your character has depth, what we've defined as depth, being perpendicular to two other dimensions. If you can prove that, you can prove your character has the properties of depth.
Okay, so do you agree that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a part of Marvel?
Uh, I don't know.
Okay, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I know the answer to that. I
But
don't
if
know.
you,
It
but if
could
you
be, it
do,
could not be.
you know, and I do, then therefore
Huh?
I
Wait, wait, wait,
know that
wait. Wait, so are you saying your thoughts are more important than mine, that what you think is true? Like, I mean,
you
unless you can justify
simply
it's true.
don't know. If you
Wait,
said
wait, 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 wait. Do you not know what an abductive is? Simply just it could be, or it could not be. I don't know. That's your burden. Now you have to prove. Okay, so what you have done there is assert a claim, or at least implied something that they're connected with each other. So if you're trying to claim that they are connected to each other, then I'm gonna want you to prove that they are connected to each other. Just because I'm agnostic on something doesn't mean your point goes through. Why would that follow? What? Yeah, so you can think something, right? But that's not justifying it in any way. You need to give evidence to prove to substantiate on why what you think is true. If you are unable to do that, why would I agree that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Comics, are the same thing? Well, connected in some way. Oh wait.
all right. Well, I think I found one. The gold standard, the Living Tribunal. the fuck?
Does it sound better, Simon? I think I had noise cancellation on my
Okay.
phone, which probably isn't a good idea. Yeah. Um. Yeah. For anyone wondering what's happening so far, he's currently on the point. I'm trying to justify why Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel Comics are connected. And for some reason, he tried to claim that having an agnostic stance means his point automatically goes through. Never justified that, so it's currently his burden currently now is proving that.
I mean, well, I could just say I'm agnostic to the fact that your character beats mine, so that
And I
just
mean that's fine. Obviously, I'd have to justify why my character beats yours, but then that'd be backtracking because it seems like your initial claim was that your character beats mine.
I mean,
So.
I'm giving a what if example.
Yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah, you can be agnostic to that. I'd obviously have to justify why my character, or why I have a reason to believe my character beats yours. Yeah, I could say something like, I mean, if my character is scaling, I'd say, well, I don't know the properties of your character, right? So I have no basis to understand why your character would win, or something like that. Or I could say, going based off what I know of the properties of your character, or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, having an agnostic stance doesn't really mean your point goes through. That's just stupid.
Mhm.
He's currently proving why his character has depth.
I mean, I don't
Wait, I have a
really.
question. While you're
I
looking
would
for
like
like
to say
while you're
something
looking for
that
your plans for Marvel Cinematic, whatever, are you just on a different point now? I just want to clarify.
what
I'm asking you a question. So you're on this point about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel Comics being the same universe or being connected. So are you on a different point now?
I dropped that topic. I do
Oh,
not
okay,
concede.
okay.
I do not concede, but I'm not gonna. I'm
Wait.
trying something else.
Wait. You dropped the topic mid debate, so you dropped the stance. So you had zero contentions to mine. I gave my arguments so far. Yeah.
Just
I think
being
my argument
agnostic
would just.
to
I think my
me.
point would just go through. So
I
I think
don't
your
have.
character would just have no depth. Okay. I
No,
think
no, no, no,
that'd be
no, no,
granted that your character.
no. I'm talking about the Marvel cinematic thing, not my character not having depth, and
Oh,
also
wait. You're still on?
something about that. I do not feel that to this debate, my character having depth is very important. It
Okay.
doesn't
So you
really
don't
matter,
think it's okay? Okay. So you're okay with your character being not 3D and lower dimensional?
but I mean, well, even if my character was 2D or fighting be undeniably above time and space, who is five-dimensional, would that mean that that he is he has five-dimensional power yet being 2D?
I mean, you'd have to prove the character he's fighting is 5D, right? All that's currently been granted so far, right? Since none of your scaling, or since you haven't really gone through any scaling or speed so far, oh,
Also, do you
your
agree
character
that
being
do you
established to be.
agree that do you agree that in the context of speaking about the universe, that that do you agree that time and space being used together represents a fourth dimensional plane of existence?
Uh, I don't know. Like within the
Do you agree
context
that
of Marvel,
being
I don't know.
made out of space and time is fourth
Like,
dimensional?
what does space and time mean in Marvel?
Space and time in Marvel, I mean, I mean, space in Marvel is defined as third space in Marvel is defined as third the three-dimensional axes, and time is defined as a
Uh,
one-dimensional axis above those third three dimensions.
let's see. Okay, so with what has already been discussed and established so far, with your character lacking depth, seems that they might be defining three dimensions in a different way than we do it, and time in a different way. So yeah, I would still be unsure where that would scale, right? Like if the whole your character lacks any depth thing was never established, I could probably grant that, maybe. It just seems to be that from what has been established,
It was
I'm
never
unsure.
established.
and I don't think I have any basis to agree that it would literally be
I
4D
don't
within
know
this
if my
context.
character has depth or not.
What I'm
I
saying
don't
is that I'm just
know.
simply
I don't know
agnostic
if my
to
character has
that.
depth or not.
Simply,
I don't know if my character has depth or not.
okay. Well, yeah, you can not know, for example, but with what
I
has been
don't. I
established,
don't know if my
the
character
point
has
that your
depth.
character lacks depth has already gone through.
How is that
That's
gone?
perfectly fine.
How did that go through? What?
Okay, so you said you were on a different point, right? Earlier, when I asked you, are you on a different point?
I
Right?
said I was still on the depth point. By different point, I
Wait.
meant about
Oh,
the MCU thing because I'm
oh,
on because I did not. I dropped the MCU topic, not the depth topic.
so what scans are you looking for right now? So, okay, so we dropped the MCU being connected to the Marvel Comics thing. Okay,
Well, since the depth,
so
since the depth
wait,
argument is
wait.
over,
Okay,
I,
this is a
I'm
this. Here's another issue, right? So since you clarified that, then we've already been over this again, but I guess we'll have to go over the second time. This is clearly backtracking, right? So earlier within the debate, you made this claim, or like you asked me this question, implying that you were going to assert some claim or like try to prove something, but you wanted me to agree with it first. That being the MCU being connected to Marvel Comics, right? So seems like you just dropped the earlier point, right? If that's what you're saying, where
Mhm.
now you're just dropping the point you made earlier to go back to the point that you dropped before.
I did
That
not drop
seems to be backtracking.
the argument. I never dropped the depth argument.
Okay. So you said you dropped the MCU and Marvel Comics point, right?
Huh?
Is that a different point from that? That means that
That is a
implies
different
that it's a
point from the
separate
depth.
point from the depth point. Meaning, you just mid debate, you just like okay, ignore the depth point. Let's go to this point.
Oh wait,
Then
oh,
after that, you
it was
just stop
related.
at
It
that
was
point.
related to the
That's the
depth
depth point.
point. It was related to the depth point, but then I
No,
realized
no, it was
that
related to the depth point. Okay,
it's
okay, you
related,
clarify
but
that. Okay, so
it
that's just a
wasn't part of
supplement.
a
Got it.
whole. So if
So
part goes away,
I'm
the
going to
whole
ask you
doesn't go
another
away.
question then. So, are you on a different subpoint for why your character has depth instead of just backtracking to the
Yes,
previous subpoint? Okay, you're on a
yes,
different subpoint.
I'm
Okay,
on a different sub point of depth, saying that I do not know if my character has depth.
okay. So, okay, now you don't know instead of okay, got it. So,
I don't know if my character has depth or not, but do you
okay.
agree that
So, do
do
you
you
want
agree
to?
that space so now I'd like to drop the depth because I've established that I'm agnostic to whether my character has depth or not.
Oh, so you're agnostic to that instead. So, wait. Earlier, do you agree that earlier within the debate, when I put into question and asked you, does your character have depth? Right? You were actively trying to prove that your character has depth. Do you agree that you were trying to prove that?
I do not remember trying to prove that.
So
I
okay,
remember
so
I
it seems
remember
that you're
trying to
having a tracking
I was
issue.
looking for scans
Hey
about
Goji,
like
hey
different
Goji,
about the
you were
timing.
in the debate the entire time. Can you vouch for me that he tried to justify why his character had depth earlier within the debate?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he tried.
Okay,
And then he
so it
dropped that.
seems
And
to
then
be that
didn't he
me
drop? Didn't
and
he drop that
Goji
argument too?
agree that earlier within the debate you asserted this. Right? So it seems to be a tracking issue, which is consistent with what you have showed so far in previous debates. So I have basis to agree that you did say that earlier. So because right, you were trying to prove your character has depth. This means that earlier you were taking the affirmative that your character has depth. And now you're just backtracking on that and saying you're agnostic to that. That's another example of you backtracking. Now, can you now
We touched.
can you
Sorry to interrupt.
okay, Goji, listen, I asked you one question. If just mic up
No, no,
next time
no,
if I ask
no,
you
no,
another
no, no,
question.
no, 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 no. I'm asking a question for you. Sorry to interrupt, but can I judge this when y'all are done?
Uh no. I mean it depends on what you say, but just mute up for now. Okay,
All
so
right.
Flo,
Mm-hmm.
so far, right, this is the third instance of some form of backtracking. Now, I'm gonna ask you again.
Wait, third?
Why do you think this the
In
form of
this debate?
backtracking is valid?
What?
I said, since you're backtracking, can you justify why this backtracking is valid now? Earlier, it seems to be that you were going on the
But
affirmative of your character having depth, and now you're on the agnostic stance. This means this is blatant backtracking.
alright.
I'm sorry. This is blatant backtracking. So it seems to be that you're backtracking. Can you please justify why this backtracking is valid? If
Mm.
not, we can go on to a different point. What is wrong with my voice today?
Well, we're back. Well, at first. Well, it's because I'm backtracking because I was confused as to what exactly we agreed to on depth because I had personally
Huh?
forgot about the whole perpendicular
Wait,
definition.
wait. So you were having tracking issues and using your own tracking issues to justify why you're backtracking. Why would your own tracking issues justify why you're backtracking? It's not like, oh, you. It's not like, for example, you said my thing encompasses all properties of this, without knowing that there are other things within that property that would not be encompassed within that, which would be a perfect form of healthy backtracking if that was the case, because you simply did not know that, and it's when you entered the debate, you were simply asserting that it was within this set, and you, to your knowledge, that set was everything, right? That's not what's happening here. What seems to be the case is that you're just having a tracking issue. Your argument's not being misconstrued. You're just not tracking your own argument and not tracking what I'm saying, and you're trying to use it as justification for your own backtracking, I don't really see how that follows.
Fair enough.
Okay, we can go into a different point. So far, what has been established, character lacks any form of depth, and there has yet to be any scaling for your character. Do
Okay.
you want me to go into my scaling?
Can I just say one? Can I just go attempt to do another scaling for my character aside from depth?
Sure. Okay, so it's
All right.
established your
So
character is
do
a
you see?
two-dimensional being
So
in terms of
so
existence.
so what do you agree that? What do you define as dimensionality?
Dimensionality, uh, a form of degree of freedom, spatially speaking, dimensional access, and like for example, length, width, depth, height, time, things like that. I'm talking about in reference to our world, right? Your verse can have different laws for dimensionality, but under the framework that I'm used to, the framework of reality itself, dimensionality would just be degrees of freedom and movement, in terms of spatial movement or even temporal movement. For example, back in
Okay,
time, forward in
so
time,
you
and stuff like
so
that.
you agree so you agree to the definition that space, that height, width, and depth can all classify as some sort of dimensionality. You agree to that, right?
Within our world, sure, but I don't know the properties of your universe.
Mm. Well, oh, here's this scan. I think I've already done that
Okay.
before. So it said the all. So this is for a different character, and I will chain scale him to Dormamu later. But now it said the all of Sloria has been ever too vast for any lone dimensionality. So now dimensionality classif. So then you can define dimensionality.
So what does dimensionality mean within this context?
Dimensionality within this context means the same definition you agreed to.
Why would it mean the same definition I agree to? Like, for example, when we agree to
It's
dimensionality,
the same
right, we
word.
agree to some form of general definition in terms of our world and how our world works, right? I've established that multiple times. So
I
within the
mean,
context of this fictional verse, why would that definition apply here? Like, when they mean dimensionality, do they mean all of dimensionality? Do they mean the dimensionality of their universe relative to like their
it's
own
any lone
cosmology?
dimensionality. It says
Lone
any
dimensionality. What does
dimensionality.
that
Therefore,
mean? How can a
indicating that there are
dimensionality be by
multiple
itself?
dimensionalities in Marvel.
Other
Indicating that there are
dimensionalities.
multiple dimensionalities in Marvel. So any lone
Oh,
dimensionality. That means so
okay. So I
any
have a question.
dimensionality. So in the set of dimensionalities in Marvel, if
Um,
there if you choose one at random, so even if it's like the highest or the lowest, that one will still be too small for Slorioth.
uh, but that doesn't really answer the question what dimensionality means within the context of the scan. Like, does dimensionality mean like a universe? Does it mean like spatial dimensions? And if it means spatial dimensions, what is the dimensionality it's talking about? Does it mean all spatial dimensions, all temporal dimensions? Does it mean the spatial and temporal axes of the realm they exist in? Or if he's too fast for these dimensionalities, is he like infinitely above reality itself? And if that's the case, what do you define as reality within the Marvel
I'm
universe?
agnostic. I'm agnostic to the definition.
Wait a minute. So you don't even know? Wait, you're agnostic to what definition?
I'm open to all interpretations of of dimensionality.
Wait, so you're arguing for your scale, and you don't even know the semantics of what you're arguing for.
I do,
So you can't.
but like I said,
Wait. So you know you.
any
Wait, if you know
interpretation
the
of
semantics of
dimensionality would help my argument.
if you know the semantics of the thing you're
Okay,
arguing
so
for, how are you
give
agnostic to that?
every single possible give any possible definition for
Why would I
dimensionality,
need
and
to? Wait, if you're
I
agnostic to
agree
that,
that that can
you're
apply
there.
to that
Nothing
scan.
really is concluded here. If you're agnostic to your own scan and your own
I'm
scale,
not agnostic.
then you're affirming.
Agnostic.
It just seems
By
to me that
agnostic,
just
I mean
nothing
I'm
would
open
really
to all
follow.
interpretations.
I mean, because for example, if you're, let's say I'm arguing that Goku's outer, and then randomly say, yeah, I'm agnostic to outer versal as a concept or something like that. It just seems to be that if I don't know what I'm talking about, that what I'm trying to affirm doesn't really mean anything at all. Like what you're trying to affirm just doesn't mean anything. So
Agnostic
yeah,
has two definitions. Agnostic has two definitions. According to
okay, yeah, but when we
according to
talk about agnostic
Oxford
within a debate, we
Dictionary.
just mean you just don't know. You just literally don't
No,
know.
no,
Like,
no, 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 no. We never agreed to a definition on
wait,
agnostic.
why
So
would we? Why would we necessarily need to agree to a definition
According
of
to the
agnostic
Oxford
if we're within
Dictionary,
a debate? Wouldn't we just use the definition that applies for debates? Well, wouldn't that be the simplest explanation and the simplest approach? Like when you're claiming
no,
you're
the
agnostic,
simplest approach
and when
would
I'm
be
claiming I'm
actually
agnostic
reading
to
the
a stance,
dictionary.
what I simply mean is that I don't know my claim or I don't know my stance. Like we
No,
don't have to
no, no, no.
overcomplicate our interpretations
Agnostic
or
has
what we're
multiple
saying.
definitions.
So
Example:
okay,
a
yeah, I
person
don't really
who
care if it
has
has
an
multiple
uncertain or
definitions.
non-committal
There's
attitude
this definition that would apply for most instances, and you never really specified on that, and I never really specified on that. We just use the definition that would likely be used here, and what we mean, and what would likely make sense. Like, what's the simplest
I was
explanation
using the
for what we're
definition.
trying to
I was
say?
using another definition for agnostic that is an official definition according to the Oxford Dictionary. That means a person who has an uncertain or non-committal attitude towards something. Now let's see the definition of non-committal. A person who is not expressing or revealing commitment to a definite opinion or course of action. Therefore,
So you don't have
that
any commit. Wait,
I was not.
even if we grant this definition, and if we grant this definition, so you're not committed whatsoever to your stance. You don't. You're not. You're unsure.
No,
You're within the middle. That's what you're trying to say. Then
yes,
why should
that's
I
what
take
I am
anything
trying
that
to
you're
say.
saying
So,
as true?
but I'm
Like,
trying to say
why
that
should I? Why?
any
I don't have any
definition of
basis to agree with you
dimensionality
whatsoever.
can be you're not any definition of dimensionality that you throw will be able to grant this argument. So I mean, there's no point in really proving anything because you could say you could
So
say you could even
I
give
have
the
a
worst.
question. Do you agree that that then nothing matters within this context? That just it doesn't matter, like has
No,
no meaning.
it does matter
Okay,
because
so okay,
no.
so
What I'm trying to say is that if you any like give like you can I just say that whatever I'm trying to say that whatever definition for dimensionality that you give me, I agree to that in the context of the scan.
I would definitely I agree to that within the context of the scene. Sure. If that's the case, then dimensionality here just means your character is the weakest in fiction. If if you said you'd agree to anything that I give, sure. We can go into my scaling now. Uh, don't. Okay, so do you agree that Madara as a human?
I'm not I do not know.
Okay. So Madara seems to have all the properties of a human. He's part of the Naruto world. He looks like all the other humans within the Naruto world. So it seems to be the case that he's likely a
Human
human.
doesn't mean you are a human.
Okay, yeah, but if it's a likely argument, it doesn't matter if there's some possible world where it's not. Everything we do in fiction is inductive. It doesn't really matter if it's like not